Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. This is the go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive deep into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science-backed insights, powerful stories, and soul-nourishing inspiration. So if you're a woman over 50 looking to thrive in the next chapter of your life, you are in the right place. Today, I have a very special guest with me. His name is Mitch Webb, and he is a health coach and nervous system expert who helps clients heal from the inside out. He works one on one with people dealing with gut issues, anxiety, autoimmune systems, fatigue, burnout, and other chronic conditions that haven't resolved through conventional approaches. Mitch blends functional health principles with deep nervous system work to get to the root cause. So healing isn't just a quick fix, it's sustainable. His approach is trauma informed, body based, and tailored to the individual. If you're ready to feel like yourself again, Mitch helps you to get there. Without further ado, Mitch, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm really excited to learn so much from this powerful talk today. So let's jump right in.
Thanks for having me, Susan. I'm excited. Let's get this thing going, girl.
Yes, absolutely. I'd like for you to share a little bit about your own journey. What led you to focus on health coaching and also nervous system healing?
That's a great question, and I appreciate you having me on the show and giving me an opportunity to share. And I love the question. So, what motivated me? I guess I felt like crap, and I was unwilling to accept that. And I'm a big believer. A big value for me is freedom, and so as things improved, that's exciting. And if there was lingering things going on, I just wanted to keep going, and so that started out with more of a physical health type of approach and focusing on nutrition and exercise. And I really got into things like biohacking and all the sexy health and wellness stuff, like keto and fasting, those type of things helped me reverse diabetes and metabolic issues. And when I found things that helped, I wanted to share with other people. So that's how the health coaching, I left the corporate world and with all the symptoms and everything that I was dealing with, I knew that wasn't going to be a healthy place for me to be in. And I realized pretty quickly getting into the health world that there's a lot of information, and it's really hard to navigate that. And so I'd say I also understood the personalization of health, and I wanted to really break it down for the individual instead of like making these blanket claims that just don't make sense that we see out there.
Yeah.
And over time, going down the rabbit hole of wellness, I found the nervous system, and I really do think that requires a special person who's been through a lot, that's willing to look at themselves and at a very deep level and see some things that have been suppressed, whether that's memories, emotions, especially for the guys, and learn to work and heal that. And you know, nervous system work is the ultimate red pill, I feel like. And so it's waking you up to not only what's going on and has been going on in your system for decades. We see the friends that we surround ourselves with, our
Hmm.
family. It's learning to be more authentic instead of having these different conditions and conditioning from childhoods where it usually comes saying I've got to people please or be perfect, whatever that may be, those patterns are usually what got us sick and caused the symptoms in the first place. And that's a lot to unpack at one time. And that's
Yeah.
why we go really slow. But yeah, it's like the nervous system kind of ties a bow on everything that I've done, because now instead of relying on other people telling me what to do, it's really the information that I'm getting is coming from my body, and I'm following my impulse. And I think that's how we become our own medicine. That's certainly what I teach my clients.
So let's talk about the nervous system in healing. So, for those who may not know, what role does the nervous system play in overall health? And why do you believe that so many chronic health issues like gut issues, fatigue, autoimmune tie back to the nervous system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think the nervous system is everything. And the reason that is because, your nervous system comes out of the back of your head, and then it goes down your spine, and it connects into the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and those two systems basically connect into all our organs, all our systems of the body, like our hormonal system, our immune system, our gut function, our energy production, our circulation, how well we rest, where our energy's at, and how well our lymphatic is moving. And I mean, you name it. We could talk all day about how the nervous system is connected to the body, but that's what it does. It connects all the systems, and it really determines how well we function. And nervous system dysregulation is what we see in our society. So most people are dysregulated, and they're either functionally frozen. Those are the ones that are not aware and say, I don't have trauma, I don't have stress, I don't know what you're talking about. And that comes from a life of learning to shut down and or dial down the emotion so we don't feel as much. It's a protective mechanism. It's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing given the situations and environments that we've lived in. And then we can also get stuck in high activation. Those are the people, the canary in the coal mine, the people that feel everything. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like you can have both. That was me. And that's kind of like having the gas on. So like the sympathetic is there. And then we also have the brakes on at the same time. So that's trying to shut down the system. And underneath it is all this sympathetic energy. And so we'll oscillate between shutting down and being really high activation. For me, showing up to this work, it looked like I feel so much and I don't know what it means. It feels like my hair's on fire and I'm going to die. Help me understand. And you slowly build capacity in the nervous system so that we can be with that intensity. But going back to your question about how does dysregulation connect to illness, and dysregulation just means we're stuck. So we're stuck in one of those states. We're not able to regulate, come back into a window of tolerance where we feel good. And so we may be managing through different supplements and hormones and biohacks. I certainly did diets, you avoiding certain things, moving towards certain things. Lots of control and black or white thinking. And so when the nervous system is stuck, these systems that the nervous system is connected to everything, they're off. And so that's where the gut issues come from, the chronic autoimmune disease, the anxiety, the ruminating thoughts, the insomnia. Certainly for me, you could have, and because the nervous system is always changing, so do these symptoms. So for me, you could have labeled me with one, disease on Monday, and by Friday it would change. And so the typical approach from even what I think is the gold standard right now of functional medicine, you're working with symptoms. And when we do that, it can certainly be helpful, but it's not hitting that root cause. And so we want to learn to build capacity in the nervous system, learn to regulate. And as we do that, the system starts to heal. And like I can talking about, gut issues early on in sessions, I would burp in therapy. And that is basically a fascial adhesion that's holding this tension. And maybe there's an emotion or a memory or whatever. But as that stuff gets renegotiated, as we meet that symptom, that sensation, and it's able to process, able to complete, meaning like if somebody wanted to run away, maybe you pretend with your mind or do it with your body, and that completes the cycle. And now that energy can move out of the body. And for me, that would be like a burp. And then I went from, not being able to tolerate a lot of foods to that being something that built capacity to now I can have foods. because I've worked through the unprocessed stuff that was in my system. Tell me if that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're talking the stuff is emotional stuff that
Yeah.
was trapped in your body that you weren't coming to terms with. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and let me take that a little bit further and explain for the audience. My mentor Irene Lyon, she does that's a great example that makes a lot of sense for me. And it's basically we've got a swimming pool, and so if
Uh-huh.
you can imagine that, the swimming pool's got a ton of beach balls, ton of like floats in there. They're all kind of bumping around and touching each other. There's not a lot of space and flow in the nervous system, and so you can think about these beach balls that are kind of touching each other and stuck, not a lot of flow. Those are things like emotions, those are traumas, those are sensations in our body, those are maybe our habitual responses to these things and beliefs and memories and conditioning. Like conditioning would be things like I have to please people or I have to be perfect, things like that.
Yeah.
And so when we start to address these things, especially in the beginning with the clients that I'm working with, we don't want to go in and start removing beach balls. The system is already overloaded. There's already too much in there. There's not a lot of space. And so instead of like going in and doing like a surgical removal, that would be too much for the system. The system could literally blow up from that, cause a lot more symptoms, and scare someone who's finally ready to do this work, scare them away, right? Because they're doing too much too soon. That's a common theme. And so instead of removing, and this is a lot of the work that I do, we want to build capacity through titration, which is doing a little bit of exposure work of meeting these sensations, of allowing them to come up. And it's like building capacity is kind of like working out in the gym. Day one, you don't walk in there and lift 500 pounds. You're going to start with like 50 pounds. And if that feels good, you're going to build up, you're going to build capacity and eventually start increasing that weight. And if it's too much, that's feedback too. It's telling us, hey, we got to slow down and go even slower. And so, in the beginning, it's a lot of education and then capacity building, and eventually the swimming pool grows larger. And what's cool about that is now there's more space. Now there's an ability to be with the intensity of the things that we have suppressed and avoided for good reason because we didn't have capacity. So now we're able to meet that stuff and meet it with compassion, meet it with curiosity instead of being terrified of it and running away from it or trying to fix it. That's just going to keep us in the loop. And
Hmm.
so by meeting it and working through it, that stuff kind of works its stuff out its way out on its own. And the more we get into the work, the more capacity we build, the more awareness we grow, the nervous system just gives us more and more. And the cool thing about that, especially for me, the biohacker trying to fix everything, learn everything, the thing that I've learned that's amazing is that I don't have to try to fix it. I really can just kind of sit back and let it come to me if I can trust and allow. That's what creating safety is. And my nervous system is the map, especially when I've got a well trained, regulated person working with me because they can help me see the things that I'm not seeing.
So how do you build capacity when you're working with a client? What is the technique? Are you just talking it through? Because a lot of times trauma is suppressed and people have it in their body, but they don't even recall what the trauma is.
Oh yeah, and for good reason. It's unconscious so that we don't
Right.
have to be reliving that. And it's also in our system and we are reacting to it on a daily basis. And so how do we build capacity? And you ask talking. That's very much what we would do in the beginning. It's a lot of education. It's like, hey, here's the biology of stress. Here's how your body functions with stress. Here's what happens when it gets stuck, and then you start to learn what's going on. And what that's trying to do there is build a little bit more safety, turn down the fear a little bit. You're learning to sit in the fire of the intensity of emotions like fear and terror and anger and grief, all those. We learn that they're not going to hurt us. They're actually messengers from the body. And eventually, instead of, you think about this. If you were terrified right now, what would be your natural reaction to that?
probably to disassociate with those fears in some way.
Right. We want to move away from it. And in this work, what we really want to do is we want to build capacity to move towards it. So when that thing shows up, and it's slow. This work is slow. It has to be slow. And so
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the beginning, yeah, I've been disassociating for my whole life. I've been moving away from it. I've been trying to fix it. I go take my medication. I go call my safe person. All those are resources. They're fine. And eventually, what happens is we start to go like, oh, I've been disassociating and using my resources for long enough. I think I'm ready to. I think I've built enough capacity through my education and my experience that I'm going to move towards this. And when we can move towards it with curiosity, we can sit in that fire and learn that it's not going to burn us by these small exposures, whether that's a thought experiment, doing a tiny little bit, like thinking, what would that, imagining, it starts with that. It may be writing it down, and eventually you may actually work with the thing in little small doses at a time. And as you turn towards that with curiosity, for me it's kind of like putting in the reps. So you've got the education, you may learn it here cognitively before you experience it in your body, but that cognitive awareness allows us to meet it differently when it shows up. And so maybe the first time it happens afterwards when you're talking in therapy and you're reflecting, oh yeah, I really ran away from that. I got afraid when I felt that anxiety in my body. And then a couple weeks goes by and it's like maybe you notice that you're running away from it, or trying to fix it, or doing the old habitual pattern while you're doing it. And then eventually, you feel that sensation come up, you get excited, you relax your body. That's something we learn to do. And you're showing your body, hey, this habitual thing that we've always done, it's not that scary. I know it's scary, and I'm going to be here with it, and I'm going to cheer it on. And after you've done that a couple of times, that pathway in the brain that says, hey, this is a major priority, this is something that's scary, it starts to loosen its grip. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you've done that, you've learned, you've practiced, you've experienced this feeling in your body, and now you've changed your approach to it. Eventually, it starts to change too. And so that's how we build capacity. That's how we build safety. And there's so many modalities, from movement, education, little exposures, all kinds of different practices that we can do. And we learn how to do that for ourselves by listening to our body, slowing things down, and putting the reps in, and seeing over time that, hey, I don't have to be afraid. And when I move towards it with curiosity and compassion, man, things really shift. And so all these things start to click, and the brain and the nervous system is kind of rewiring itself, and we're building more safety. And as we get more safety, the nervous system just gives us more things to work with.
Right. So it's very deep. How long does this process take generally?
Well, I mean, it really depends on everybody, or it
Yeah.
depends on the individual and what's going on and how long it's been going on. We tend to say anywhere from 1 to 2 years. I have been doing this for probably 4 years of therapy, probably 3 or 4 years of therapy, really moving more into the somatic, the body base. Like the thinking stuff for me just re-traumatized me. It's bringing up old memories without giving it an exit from the nervous system, and that also helped me understand kind of what was going on in my life. When I started this, my early life, when I started this, I was reading The Body Keeps the Score, and there was a
Oh,
part
yeah.
about early developmental trauma, childhood trauma, and I remember feeling almost guilty to read that. I'm like, how could my childhood be bad? And I skipped that chapter. Now, circling back, that's for good reason, because I wasn't ready to see that stuff.
Yeah.
And, it certainly takes time and awareness to do that. And that's where the capacity building comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference, and if you could explain the difference between addressing the symptoms that you're having versus addressing the root cause to those symptoms?
Well, it's just going deeper and deeper. The symptoms are usually what's in our awareness. We know, man,
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping. Man, my gut doesn't feel good. And so we can chase symptoms. I can look at your gut, like I can say, "Oh, what's going on with your gut? Tell me the symptoms." And I'm sure there's a, if you've got some illness or dis-ease going on, there's somebody in the health and wellness field that wants to sell you something, right? And so there's a
Yeah.
lot of solutions, and you can detox, and you can supplement, you can change your diet, and you can change, and all those things are good, and those are things that I do with my clients as a way to manage what's going on.
Hmm.
And we can really get stuck learning new management techniques and distracting us from going deeper. So the physical symptom may be one layer. The maybe there's we go deeper and we go into the emotional body. We're feeling, where is it at in our body, what's going on, and ultimately, what it is there's a part of us that early on, likely in childhood or later, we had something that was too overwhelming and we weren't able to fight, to run away. And so we learn to shut down, and that's the freeze. And so when that happens over and over again, if we have an environment that's too much and scary, that kind of becomes our way of relating to stressful situations. And over time, that causes sickness in the body. And so we want to just keep going deeper and deeper and seeing, like, okay, so I've got anxiety, why is this showing up all the time? If it's persistent, if it's even a gut issue, what's going on here? And when we learn how to relate to our body, there may be images that came up, there may be people that look like people we know, there may be colors and sensations, and it may move around the body, and so we're moving towards it, we're tracking that in our body. And if you're working with a good practitioner, they're going to be able to help catch those things as they come up. We can engage with it, make new meaning, and there's always new information coming up. Now, that doesn't happen right away in the beginning. You may need to build some safety first before ever to go deeper. And that may come in the form of a better diet, a better sleep routine, drinking good water. So all these things are important. Like, there's foundational practice of the physical. I feel like that's level one, eating, moving, sleeping, working on our home environment so it's not stressful, looking at things like EMF, looking at things like food sensitivities, making better choices when it comes to processed foods and seed oils, and learning how to dial in our circadian rhythm, be connected to the earth, get sun. That's foundational,
Yeah.
and if you're not doing that, it's going to be really hard to listen because there's a lot of interference in the system. There's a lot of noise in the system already via inflammation or poor sleep or not being hydrated enough during the day, not getting adequate minerals. And so that's where it really becomes, I got to meet the individual where they're at. So there may be, okay, we're going to work on diet, and we're going to teach you how to get some sunlight in the morning and put your bare feet on the ground. And that's going to help the system right there. So now that I'm more clear and I'm feeling better because now the inputs are better, well, now I can start to meet whatever comes up. And it's like, again, I don't have to really figure it out. I'm just building education, just sitting in a just sitting in an educational, like, just learning this stuff will bring stuff up in your system.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of that. I've had insomnia for forever, and so my mentor Irene Line has a ton of YouTube videos, and one of the things that got me early on was, hey, do you have trouble sleeping at nighttime? And I learned about the cry it out method that doctors were teaching young mothers in the 80s and 90s, I believe, of leave your kid. They're going to cry it out, or you're going to be having an adult baby for the rest of your life. And what that does is, when we have trauma, we need connection. And so what that is disconnection. So it makes sense that this would be a stressful thing that a lot of people went through at the time because that was the information that was out there. I
Yeah.
heard this, and I'm walking around my neighborhood sobbing uncontrollably, not understanding what's going on. And so my system, that what that shows me as well is that I have brought some more safety on board, enough that my nervous system is ready to show me this new thing. And if all I have to do is interact with that, it's going to keep giving me things to unpack, and all I got to do is meet it with curiosity and care.
Right. So why do you think that so many people miss the nervous system component when they are trying to heal? Because quite honestly, like even for me with symptoms that I've had from time to time, I never associate it with my nervous system.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah. I
that it's
mean,
not talked about enough?
yeah, I think nervous system work is slow. It's not sexy. There's not we live in a world of Amazon Prime overnight quick fixes, and we want delivery tomorrow. And so this work is not that. It's like, do you want to work? I just told you this is 2 years, right? Like, yeah, there's things that happen right away. There's things that happen along the way, and there's things that take a long freaking time because we've been doing that for decades. And so, it's like I'm selling 2 years against Xanax. Do you want to take a Xanax and predictably relax right now? Or do you want to go 2 years and things get worse before they get better? Kind of a tough sell. And so
Yeah.
it takes an individual that has really got their butt handed to them over and over again. They usually have been through the medical system. They've tried, my clients for sure have tried all the supplements, all the detox, all the diets. They may be the spitting image of health, yet they feel like crap inside. They're burnt out. They have no energy. They're waking up with no sleep. Their gut is off all the time. They're staring at the ceiling at nighttime. They've got anxiety. They're shut down. They've got depression. Their symptoms change. They don't know what the hell's going on. They think they're going crazy.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're kind of willing to do anything. And we don't get an owner's manual when we come to this
Right.
world. And generations and generations and generations have not known about this stuff, and we've been stuck in fight or flight as a society for decades, for generations, right? And so that comes with a toll as well. All that generational stress that does not get processed by your grandma, your great grandpa, all this, that all filters down into you. And so the people that I work with, they're the canaries in the coal mine. They're waking up and feeling this, and that is one hell of an opportunity to heal you, to heal generational trauma, and to make a big difference in the world. And the world is waking up to the years of in the fight or flight, the survival mode that we've been stuck in for generations. And I say that it's not a sexy thing right now, but you give it a year or two, and this nervous system stuff's going to be huge. You're already seeing it, and that's scary because so many people are calling nervous system, they're trying to make it a quick fix. That's what we do in a capitalistic society. We try to take these ancient, I mean, if you lived in a small village in an indigenous population, the village deals with this together. We're individuals
Yeah.
separated, and we've got all this stuff, and we don't talk about it. We show our best self on social media, so we're just stuffing it down and trying to avoid it. But the world is waking up, and if you look around, like, it's happening everywhere. And those are the people that I'm trying to work with, and I think the more people we can heal and get on this journey, we heal the world.
Yeah. So, are there any simple practices that someone who starts to think they're listening to this episode and they say, oh, you know what? It could be that my nervous system is a little out of whack. What would you recommend that someone do? Like some simple practices that they could do at home to start out to see if they could make an improvement on their own?
Yeah, that's it's definitely an individual thing. Some simple practices, like it depends on the person, right? So if someone's like got a lot of energy, sitting down in a meditation and quieting things down and slowing down is not something they can do.
Right.
I know that when I started, closing my eyes to do a meditation was impossible. And that can literally be something that causes more dysregulation. So that
Yes.
type of person, maybe they want to do a little bit of breath work. It's easy to overdo that as well. Actually, here's what I'd go with. For that type of person, instead of breath work, because that can be too much really fast, and people won't even be aware of that. I think like qigong is really good. I've got a video on my YouTube that another guy and I did, and it's just really slow movement. But you do it through connection to the ground, to feeling your feet on the ground, to feeling the wind and the air moving through your fingers, to look at nature as you're doing it, if you're doing it outside, or really be in your environment. The other one that comes to my mind, I had it and then I just lost it. Give me 1 second. Another one is just learning to oh, here's this is one by Peter Levine, his book Waking the Tiger. It's real simple. It's in the shower. This is like a somatic thing, and it's like get the shower head and put it on your body. and just really focus on that area and say it out loud even while you feel your feet on the ground. Can you notice, oh, I'm hitting the back of my neck now. Oh, I'm hitting my chest now. I'm hitting the top of my head. I'm getting my arms. And you do that really slowly, and you're just learning to feel, learning to come back to the body. And what that's called is orienting, which means I'm going to take my awareness and place it on the external or the internal. But I think with someone who's experiencing a lot, it'd probably be better to focus on the external. So me sitting in my room right now, people can do this with us as they're listening. Why don't you cool doing that? Are you cool if we just do like a minute or two of what that would look like to orient?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So if everybody's listening right now, you know, just figure out how you want to sit. So what's your impulse? Do you want to lay down on a bed, on a couch? Do you want to sit in a chair? Or, does it feel better to walk? And so as we tune into what feels best for us, we would call that following your impulse as to how you want to position yourself. And we're just going to feel our butt in the chair, right? And feel whatever it is that's supporting us. It may be a chair or a couch. It could be the bed. And can you let the weight of your body drop into that support just a little bit more? And what's a one way that you can do that? Maybe using your breath, maybe relaxing different muscles that feel tight if you notice that. And how does that little 5% shift, how does that feel in your body? Sometimes we notice a shift and sometimes we don't, and both are
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then, just notice, are your eyes open or are they closed? Not to change it, but just to be aware of it. And if it feels comfortable, let's open our eyes and just really try to stay connected to your seat or whatever's supporting you. And as you take your eyes away from the screen or whatever you're doing, what do you see in your environment? Are there colors that grab your attention? Do you see your favorite color? How do you feel when you see that? And then we're just slowly taking our eyes away from our favorite color, slowly moving our head, either one direction, whatever feels good to you, and just noticing, what do you notice? Is there, a window close by with nature? Do you have a favorite book? Or maybe you've got a glass of water or a pen near you. And right now, you're probably feeling something in your body. And by orienting, it's really to show the nervous system that we're safe. And so what I like to do is go, regardless of what's going on in your body, we don't want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always ask my clients, is there a tiger? Do you see a tiger anywhere? Is there an imminent threat in your environment right now? Or are you good? Right? And that's just something to notice.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to bring everybody back now and, feel your butt on the chair and see if you can keep doing that while we're talking. But that's just an example of orienting, and what that does is it disconnects us from the habitual. We don't even know sometimes. We live in our head a lot of times when we've had trauma and we have a lot of sensation in our body because it feels unsafe below the neck. And so we're in our head thinking our way to safety. And really what we want to do is we want to start feeling again. We want the body to come back online. And so by orienting, we're kind of disconnecting from the feeling mind. We're dropping into this moment instead of thinking about what we're going to be making for dinner or trying to prevent some scary thing that happened to us yesterday or 10 years ago. We're going to be here right now. And we're going to look around and see our environment, follow impulses on things that look and feel good. And, here's the thing, for that exercise, somebody can walk away from that and be like, man, this is uncomfortable. This is too much. Connecting to the body can be scary. And that's why we do a little bit, and that's okay. You can also come away from this and go, oh, maybe you down regulate a little bit. For me, I would yawn or take a deep breath, or I would just feel like the tension in my body go down that maybe I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling all day long. So I'm curious, Susan, what did you notice?
That's exactly what I felt. I felt like I sunk into my chair more.
Hmm.
And now I wasn't part of the podcast. I was a guest,
Yeah.
right? So you were facilitating. So that took a little bit of pressure off of how I felt.
Yeah.
And I sunk into the chair and my I won't call it a level of anxiety because I'm not feeling anxiety, but right now I'm on, right? I'm on Zoom and I'm facilitating this podcast episode with you. So I have a little bit of responsibility on my end. And for that couple of moments, you were in charge and I just had to relax myself. And I felt myself actually relax and sink into the chair. And maybe my shoulders may have been a little bit raised prior,
Hmm.
but then they dropped down. So, yeah, it took a little pressure off of me.
Yeah, I love that. That's great feedback, and it makes so much sense, especially when you're performing. And so you create a little bit of space in the system. You take the pressure off. You're able to notice, hey, here's some tension in my body,
Yeah,
and I can relax that a little bit. And that's what it is. So eventually, you learn to do this stuff on your own. And in the beginning, it's so nice to be guided because I don't have to think and figure it out. I can just follow my impulse and be with my body and let my body guide me. Now, that is tough for someone that's been controlling to be perfect, to feel safe. And I'm doing that in air quotes for those
yeah,
listening because we don't feel safe with control. But that may be a strategy that we've had to use and for good reason to feel safe and to survive up until now. And so when we slow down, we get to see these patterns and see that our body is always talking to us. We have just learned to not listen and disconnect. And the work is to move towards, to connect and to meet and nurture these parts and sensations that are asking for our attention.
yeah. Mitch, touch on somatic healing because lately everyone's talking about somatic healing. It's something that I hear a lot about. Tell us what that's all about.
So somatic just means the body. And so traditional forms of therapy were more brain based and cognitive behavioral therapy. And, tell me about that. And it's reliving old scenarios that traumatized us, which can be useful. It was useful for me at a time. And then there was a time it was time. I've got the information. I'm sick of going over and over the past. All it does is just make me stressed and nothing is changing. But see, for me, what was happening with that is I started to notice these patterns, people pleasing, perfectionism, but I didn't know they were patterns. I didn't know how to meet them. I didn't have the tools. And so when I went and started doing more somatic experiencing type of work, I started getting curious with what is this sensation in my body? What are these emotions? And moving towards those. And it's just working with the body. And for me, it gives it a way to get out of the body. We're actually working with it instead of re-traumatizing it. And there's so many different ways to work with that, with somatics. And so you can do, dance has helped me. Qigong has helped me. Actually doing the somatic experiencing of working with sensations and emotions, that's helped. But it's all about, it really just means working with the felt sense in the body instead of analyzing it and thinking. Like I said, there's a time and a place for that. And then we build the capacity to say, okay, I realize that and I've built education and awareness that, hey, here's how my nervous system works. There's definitely some dysregulation going on. Maybe we start to be willing to consider that what we've been feeling and experiencing is just a nervous system dysregulation. And so we're going to start slowly moving towards this and seeing what happens in the body and just meeting that. And so it's like, it's always interesting. I've mentioned previously on the podcast that, our nervous system is our map. And so I may be thinking about something that's going on in my week or whatever, and that's what I really want to talk about. But when I get into the session with my in a co-regulated space, meaning with a regulated nervous system in a safe space, well, something else completely comes up. Now, if I am still in some of my old pathway or old patterns of controlling and thinking and figuring it out, well, then that can kind of take me out of what's trying to come up now, because
Mhm.
we don't want to go outside of our capacity and chase something that we know happened to us that was scary and overwhelming, but the system's not ready for that. It wants to talk about this fear, or it wants to build safety, and we do that by really slowing things down with a good therapist, and feeling what's underneath the thoughts and the beliefs. A lot of times there are protective parts that don't want us to get under the emotion and to remember the things that happened. And so we work with that. You know, everybody is so different, and when it comes to somatic, it's about titration, which is just doing a little bit at a time, and giving the system space and time for integration. And yeah, it just keeps giving you what you need. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Yes,
So
it
it's just really, can we work with what's going on in the body? Because that is, you've heard, body keeps the score. All the
yes.
stuff is stored in our body. You know, you may or may not remember it, and you don't have to remember it sometimes. It's really about the felt sense. I don't need my clients to remember what happened to them when they were a child. We're going to meet the patterns that are controlling their life now. Because if we had to get love and connection through being perfect or through pleasing, through intellectualization, which is just trying to think my way to safety, we get to meet those patterns, and then we meet the emotions that are underneath, and then eventually we get to the wound that says I'm not good enough unless I'm perfect. You know, and so that's like a that's how we work with the body. And when I was doing it with the head, all I was doing is just talking about, you know, me as a child and me having that scary experience and having all that stuff flood my system again with nothing to do other than
Mhm.
talk about it. And with this, we learn to follow our impulse and nurture our body in the way that it needs. Does it want to kick and punch? Does it want to scream and yell? Does it want to say no or set a boundary or not do this? And so you follow those impulses, and that's where we say, when you build enough capacity, you've done this work, you become your own medicine. As somebody who dealt with chronic disease for 20 years, I'm so thankful for the people along the way that have helped me. But now I'm the help because I have learned to listen. And I'm like not perfect, or I don't think any therapist is, but it's like I'm learning to meet myself and give myself what I need. And when I follow what my body is telling me, it always leads to healing.
Wow, that's great. So leave us with some final thoughts.
Some final thoughts. I would say, well, this one's coming up. If you're dealing with this stuff like I have for decades, you got chronic disease, you got chronic anxiety, depression, you got gut issues that are shifting and changing. You tried everything. Well, first off, like, good on you for wanting to improve yourself. But what I had to learn is that I'm not broken. You're not broken. Your system, your nervous system, and your body is responding perfectly to the environment that it's in, the experiences that it's had. And if it is talking to you, that is a massive opportunity for healing. Those symptoms are not the problem, they are the solution. They are letting us know where we need to go for the next step, for the healing that likely you're craving. We just have to slow down, build capacity, and learn how to listen and respond.
That's excellent.
And
Excellent.
if that sounds like you, I'd love to help you. That's the work that I'm doing with my clients. Whether it's, and I meet you where you're at. We start with the foundational stuff. Making sure the nutrition and the movement and the sleep and all that stuff is got a check beside it. And then we start learning about the nervous system and doing little bits at a time. And yes, it's a journey, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done for my health. And I'm so excited to be doing this work. I think it's for doing this for 20 years, this is the most amazing thing, because everything else that I did now gets a new lens, because I'm not relying on some external thing or person to tell me what to do. I'm using those tools that I've built and learned about from my perspective, from my authenticity, And so I'm not relying on someone else, and I can respond to my body. And that is what we're trying to do here.
Right. That's great. So where could people find you?
My website is mitchwebb.com. I'm K Mitch Webb on Instagram and what's the new one? I just TikTok. I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, and I believe I've got a little special gift that people can sign up for. They'll get put into my newsletter and get some updates from me on podcasts and different things that I'm doing, and they'll get a free sheet talking about orienting, talking about following impulse, and a couple of different ways to look at that. And then there's a link in there as well if they've learned some of this stuff and they're interested and they want to see what's it like to work with me and if we'd be a good fit. I'm offering free consults to anyone that's curious.
Excellent. So I will put all of your contact information in the show notes so they could go right to the show notes to find them.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Okay, Mitch, thank you so much. This was a wonderful episode. I appreciate you coming on, and I'd love to have you come back again sometime.
Sounds good, Susan. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for joining me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. If this episode resonated with you, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what you thought. Also, if you could think of anyone who would benefit from listening to this episode, I would appreciate it so much if you could share it out with them as well. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please be sure to follow me here. This way, each and every week, you'll be notified about the next great episode with a great guest and much to learn. I appreciate each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. And until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. Take very good care, everyone.